Coloured water. What fly do you need? What rig do you need? And how can you get the most out of fishing in these conditions? That's what we're going to be talking about today. What is up guys, welcome back to another video. If you are a returning subscriber, it's good to see your face again. If you are new here, my name is Rhys and I make fly fishing videos and tutorials that will help you catch more fish. So, if you'd like to learn more, please press that red subscribe button and smash that bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. Okay, so coloured water. I hate it. I absolutely despise coloured water, but we live in the UK and in winter we get a lot of rain. So that means that most of our fisheries will colour up at some point. So how do you approach coloured water to get success? There are a few key fundamentals that we need to think about when fishing coloured water. So coloured water generally means that the water clarity is poor. Fish are only going to be able to see sometimes a matter of inches in front of its nose. So the key fundamentals from a methods point of view is to fish something slow or fish something static. The second key fundamental is around flies. You either want to fish something very, very dark or very, very bright. So now that we've got that understanding, let's jump through 4 different methods that I think you can use tomorrow to catch fish in coloured water. Number 1, my favourite method for fishing in coloured water, without a doubt, has to be a dive 3 with a black booby. That's normally fished on about 8 foot of 8 pound fluorocarbon. And the reason why I like that method so much is it creates disturbance. With a dive 3 and a booby, I can cover the majority of water at any fishery. And the best thing about it is the fly at the end. I'm fishing black, and black arguably has one of the strongest silhouettes in coloured water. The fact that it's a booby as well will help in terms of the disturbance it creates either on the top of the water or in any point of the water column. And how I retrieve that, because we're fishing in coloured water, we have to slow everything down. It'll normally be just a steady, slow figure of 8. And what I've also found on occasion can work is if you do one short, sharp strip and then leave it. And what effectively is happening is your fly is going to dart down and then it's just going to rise up by itself. And you will be surprised how often that the dart down just draws the fish's attention, and as that fly is ascending by itself is when the fish will take it. It's a particularly successful method if you're fishing for browns or tigers in my experience. Okay, so that's method number 1, and that will cover any part of the water column that you needed to. Let's look at a lure alternative. So method number 2, you're going to fish something like a slow intermediate. So that can be anything from a Vision Stellamaniac to an airflow slow intermediate. And the cast here is going to be 15 feet of 7 pound fluorocarbon. On the point, we're going to have a dark fly, so whether that be something like a damsel. On the droppers then, I'm going to fish 2 cormorants, preferably 2 black cormorants. Black cormorants for some reason work really, really well in coloured water. If you look at Eileddyn for example, I bet not one day goes by at Eileddyn where someone doesn't catch on a cormorant. That black silhouette just punches out, no matter how small it is, just punches out really well in peaty water. So, the aim of this method is that we're going to try and cover a lure-based approach as well as meeting something a bit smaller on the cast. So how I fish this again is just a very slow and steady figure of 8. You've got to remember that when the water clarity is very, very poor, the fish may only have 1 split second to make a decision on whether it wants to take the fly or not. So the more you slow things down and the longer that your flies stay in the water for, the increased chance you have of catching fish. And I forgot to mention that the fly on the point doesn't always need to be a damsel. You can really mix that up. You can go to a cat's whisker, you can go to a hulk lure, you can go to a humongous. Just trial and error is the key with that cast. You need to see what the fish are going to react to on that day at that fishery. But all of those flies will work. So method number 3. For this method, you're going to fish something that stays out there and you're waiting for the fish to cross it, as opposed to you getting your flies across to the fish. And that is the bung. Now in terms of flies, you're going to be looking at the staples, your cat bugs, your watsits, your ecstasy worms, anything very, very bright. Now with the bung, you're going to fish it static and just leave it out there. And what you'll often find sometimes in coloured water is that the splash of the bung hitting the water is enough to attract the fish around to that vicinity. And as your fly below the bung is slowly descending down to its depth, that is when you'll get the fish to take. So be mindful of that. As soon as your fly lands in the water, be ready to strike. Okay, and then number 4, we're going to look at a more natural approach. So, fishing naturals doesn't always work, but on its day, it will outfish everything else. And in that event, my go-to tends to revolve around 3 black flies. I'm sticking with black because black gives you the best silhouette, even if it's tiny. And there's small things you can do with the casts. So say for example, because it's coloured water, you don't need to fish your flies very far apart. 5 foot, 5 foot, 5 foot, 15-foot leader, fluorocarbon, £7, and you're good to go. And also don't forget that it doesn't hurt to fish a fly that's got a slight trigger to it. So my cast, for example, might look like a hothead diaobach on the top dropper, a black cruncher on the middle, and then a black pheasant tail weighted with wire on the point. And with that method, slow is the name of the game as always. You're just trying to keep those flies in the water for as long as possible. So if you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. My name is Rhys, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.